Welcome to Latinas from the block to the boardroom, where wisdom comes from everywhere. This is a podcast about generational wisdom shared to help build a bridge for future generations and to build stronger communities through education, technology, and health. Welcome to Latinas from the block to the boardroom.
Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining today here on our small business series that we are starting here with Latinasb2b.marketing. I'm really excited to kick off this webinar with our special guest and presenter today of his technology platform, Disctopia, Patrick Hill. We will also be having this recording hosted on his platform, Disctopia, which we will see all the benefits of what we're going to get into today through his presentation. So first, I'd like to start off with everyone joining from wherever you're listening to today, and that this is really geared towards folks that are podcasting and they want to know how to elevate their game, and specifically from a different lens, because we know technology and business today has a certain lens. So we're going to be a little more freestyle here and just kind of present how we see the changes and the disruption of how we can be more beneficial from a monetary value perspective to organizations as partners, or how we can also be partners to each other in this business ecosystem. I just came from a few webinars, I just came from a few conferences where California specifically is focused and put a bill in place to get a lot of businesses certified, small businesses, specifically women-owned, and how we market ourselves for those opportunities is very important. So podcasting to me is a new trend that I feel as women and women of color, and also our community and allies, that we bring a certain perspective and truth and authenticity to our business that a lot of other folks are missing. So thank you for joining us today, and let's just get to it. So one of the things I'd like to start off with is just presenting the opportunity. So what I want to do today is to present the agenda, and where I just left off was, how do we present our new thinking, and what does that mean to an audience like yourself? If you're joining us today wanting to understand how you can leverage your voice and authenticity, you've come to the right webinar today. Also, I want to share how podcasting is becoming extremely revolutionary. We have radio, we have television, but podcasting and audio, especially with video, brings a different perspective. And why is that? Because streaming is really critical to today's market, especially for revenue generation. And then I'm also going to bring up some interesting stats around women in business and how we're leveraging podcasting. Podcasting today amongst women listenership, and how we're entering the market is really creating an advantage to our business. And why is that? Because people are looking for tips. They're looking for brands that associate to what they're looking for, specifically in wellness, health, and also entrepreneurship. And then why is it that we are missing the mark? I say we're not missing the mark. The opportunity of the bigger enterprises are missing the mark. And this is where we have the opportunity to disrupt the market. And that's where Patrick is going to come in and talk about his platform, Disctopia, and we're going to present the demo. So just real quick, I was in corporate tech for almost 20 years. I like to say I'm still kind of tethered there. This has kind of been my journey. And again, what I saw in the market is all these large organizations were highly focused. I would say hyper-focused on the small business market. Why did they not execute on that? I always ask that question. And I said, it's because women and people of color are exponentially growing that market. And I was the only person on the team. So when you don't have the folks that are representing the community that are selling the products, you are missing the opportunity. And I saw millions of dollars being wasted in endless research projects, endless go-to-market strategies that didn't work because we were all saying, can you just hire more people of color on the team because they know what we're talking about and we can just go faster. But things fall on deaf ears. And here we are today to share this knowledge because we're giving you that power today. It sounds really funny, but this was actually 10 years ago, and they are still trying to capture that market. And this is the opportunity I feel we can take today. All right. So podcasting, how does podcasting get into the realm for this opportunity? It's because our communities like to talk, and we are storytellers by nature. If we want to go back in history, that's how we kept a lot of our food, a lot of our medicine, a lot of how we build up, a lot of practices to keep communities together from a health perspective, from an organizing perspective. I mean, this goes really deep when you think about it. And we share a lot of those stories today on podcasting. But when we bring the business aspect into that authenticity of where you come from, that really creates a strong bond. So we're going to talk about how the leadership branding is a thought leader, your business advocacy, and also how that audience building can really exponentially build a good revenue stream for you in the future. So here's some podcasting trends. If you're a podcaster, you may know this already, but if you're here as a business, these are things to take into your back pocket to see where you can incorporate podcasting as part of your marketing strategy. One thing is there is a huge rise of independent podcasters, but who are those independent podcasters and what are they talking about? Is this something that you would like to do for your organization as a niche podcast, as an entrepreneur, or is it towards a business product, giving tips? When they say the rise of independent podcasters, there's also a narrative that the podcasting realm is getting saturated. I don't believe that one bit. I think what it is saying is that people come into the space and then they leave because they don't understand what we're going to share with you today is how to keep that practice going. The diversity and niche market is growing exponentially. We're going to show some stats at the end of this webinar, why Latinos and also our, African-American community, they are growing the podcasting space exponentially. But then when you add women of color on top of that, that is a whole new market that is open for just complete disruption. The increase in listenership is also growing amongst women. Now, the thing that I found interesting from the Podcast Insights report is the celebrity endorsements. When celebrities enter the market, they're just doing it really to keep their fan base going. Because why? Because the other media streams are falling off and they need to still be engaged. Social media is one, but they also see podcasting as an area to keep their fans engaged. So if that doesn't tell you anything about the podcasting space, that this is a new medium and everybody's looking at it to keep the engagement going, that should be another tick for you in your strategy to say, how do I leverage this better? If you're a small business, branded content will always keep, I call evergreen marketing campaigns going. And then video podcasting is also an area that is growing because people want to see your face. They want to know it's the real you. And I think with the engagement of AI into technology, you being the real thing on a video clip is probably going to win more. And we're not just saying TikTok, and that's a whole other discussion, but YouTube is really trying to capture that market. They have been streaming video for forever. However, with podcasting, they're really trying to leverage that from a niche and content creator platform. However, Patrick is here to tell us how he is going to be disrupting that market a little bit because he is different and he's going to tell you why. So just hang on to your seat there for that. So as I was saying, the stats here, there's 30% and 40% of Latino and Black Americans over the age of 12 that are listening. And why is that? I say because they're looking for authentic voices and stories, because when you look at the dominant narrative today, it does not reflect them. It does not reflect what is happening in their community, in what they're looking for products and services, this is the opportunity. And when we talk about women business owners leveraging this medium in their marketing strategy, it really creates thought leadership. It also puts you at the forefront of saying, I follow trends and I know where my community is. And also it gives your business a leg up in also becoming, out in the forefront across all these platforms. And we're going to get a little bit into that, why that's important to have these platforms working for you outside of social media. So what is the small business opportunity here? As a podcaster, I think you already know what the opportunity is, and that's sponsorships, that's advertising, that's selling your merch, that's building your audience. That's also trying to become a part of a network if that's your goal. There's a lot of opportunity in being that niche podcaster. However, small businesses have an opportunity, and it's with leveraging data. I say on both sides, you can leverage the data as a podcaster and as a small business. And why does that matter? Because when you're pitching for a collaboration or you're pitching to a content, a content platform that you'd like to share revenue with, or, build revenue with, or you'd like to partner with a bigger brand, they want to see the numbers. Now, here's the caveat to that, because as a niche podcaster, which most of us are, they want to see the engagement and they want to see the brand value that you bring. And this is where I feel a lot of them are missing the opportunity. In the data that you bring, that already shows that you know your space, you know technology, and you know your audience, which is something that if we show them, they already know that we're tapped into technology to leverage that to work with them. Because I always feel, and this is something I'm going to share with you personally, that a lot of them through their lens thinks that we are not savvy with technology platforms and presenting data, and that how we know the market, our communities more, and why we always have to continue to educate them. I would like to flip the script on that a little bit and just say, here are the numbers. You go take that research information and let's talk, about where the opportunity is. Because I feel you can be there all day trying to educate them about the community when it's really the data that they're really interested. So don't get sidetracked by the two conversations whenever you get to that point, because I've been there. And it can be a really interesting conversation. It's not something to end, as a, like, this isn't going to work, but let's see how we can grow the relationship in the future. So what I mean by that is what they can't see is what they can invest in, because to them, the numbers and what you're presenting and how you build that story around the data is really important. I've been in this arena a long time, and what they want to know is, who's your community? How long have you been podcasting? What technology solutions are you using? And then also, how invested are you in this business? That is the number one thing, is they want to know, are you in it for the long game or are you in it for the short-term gain? Because what we want to do is build long-term relationships with these organizations or with your customer base that wants to sponsor with you, because then they see the opportunity to grow with you. And that's always the net game. But sometimes influencers, they are just here for a quick pop and that's it. But this opportunity gives you longevity. It gives you an ecosystem to work with, and it also builds brand loyalty on both sides. It's a great partnership, which is why I have Patrick here today. So here's an opportunity I want to show you just real quick from Edison. They did a Latino listener report. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I saw the opportunity to pitch to small businesses about podcasting who really didn't understand the medium. And what I brought to them were the numbers. I brought to them the numbers that Edison, which is a big firm that's already done the work, is to say, here's where Latinos are focused when listening to a podcast, especially when they hear a sponsorship or a brand ad. The interesting thing is when it comes from the host, or if it is a Latino brand, they are more highly engaged to go search for that product, go to their website, look up the information. Why? Because there's a strong trust factor there. Extremely. And these are the numbers that give you that. And they did this report based on a sample size of about 3,000, which is a good sample. It's, optimally it's 5,000, but 3,000 is pretty good. And they did it across the board. And if you want that report, we can send it to you, or you can go to our website at Latinasb2b.marketing and you can download that report and see the full report on the numbers across the Latino market. There's also one that is based on the African-American community and their listenership and so on and so forth. So the numbers really matter. And I'm going to bring up a case study because what I did is I pitched to somebody about this who was in one of my networking groups. She's like, this podcasting is really interesting to me, Teresa. I want to understand it because what I'm doing is I'm running a new campaign to launch a Latina in Leadership Institute. And I'm running the typical campaigns. She's been a marketing CMO at some big organizations. So we had a few talks and I presented numbers to her and I offered a package to her, which is what you can see down here. We decided to do that. I gave her a price on that package. Now, what's the difference between this and going and doing a sponsorship through these other platforms that say, oh, we'll partner with you if you want to do this brand sponsorship? The thing is, I had full control over this opportunity. I was able to set my price based on the metrics, the dynamics of the market, what my specialty was, and how I could help her in a collaboration effort to grow that campaign. And so we decided to partner. She went through and she ultimately met her goal and her numbers. She also got more exposure, which she told me, Teresa, someone heard this podcast and we put it on our website, and this got us a PR media in a magazine and also a TV spot because they heard the podcast. So people are looking for podcasts in the market, right? They want to hear the story. So this expanded her reach and she was very thankful. So that paid off in multiple ways for her. We have other case stories, but I want to show you that the opportunity to sponsor or to advertise is there when you present the data, the opportunity, and how you can work with your client in that fashion. So now I'm going to turn it over to Patrick, and he's going to give us his opportunity for building his platform, Disctopia, which I'm very excited about. And I'm going to turn it over to you, Patrick.
Last but not least, when we did build Disctopia, we try to have a impact on what we're doing socially and our number one first adopters were actually people from underrepresented, underutilized communities. So a lot of small business from the Black and Brown community, considering that we were music first, so we did get a lot of R&B, indie, and rap artists. But then when we converted to podcasts, our first couple podcasts were spoken word. So, and then we started creeping into more of the day-to-day podcasters, small businesses that want to have a podcast. So once we figured out the type of impact we were having, we started to want to make sure we add a couple more tools, such as merch, and then a lot more data. And I'll demo that because this conversation is all about the numbers. So we're going to demo how the platform really gives you a story, so that you can then turn that around and be a successful business owner, whether you're selling product or whether you're actually selling your own podcast.
All right. So Patrick, where are you joining us here from today?
I am from Charlotte, North Carolina. So it is a pleasure joining you from Charlotte.
All right. So if anyone's interested, This is the podcast I recorded with Patrick. So you can scan the QR code, but we'll also have it available to you via email that you can listen to his full story. But I wanted to thank him for that introduction. But if you're here today and you want to put that into your phone for later, you can go ahead and scan the QR code that we have available. All right, so here we go, Patrick.
Okay. So why is collaboration really important or just key in general? There's three things that I think why collaboration is key and why it helps you to push your business forward or push your content even further. One is having collaboration and being diverse at that is a creative perspective. Everybody from every walks of life has a different perspective, whether it's from experiences because they define us, or just the simple things that you've learned in life. So a creative perspective does foster from real diversity, and it helps creativity and innovation. Bringing those different perspectives allows new ideas, and it definitely brings new solutions to whatever you're doing. So we have to collaborate, and we have to kind of bring that together. And whether that's you and your producer, you and your graphic designer, or you're the graphic designer and you're working with a podcaster, or maybe you're a small business owner and you're not as strong in, and I'm speaking for myself, you're not as strong in sales. So you're trying to collaborate with those who are, have that kind of sales engineer and business development kind of down, and then collaborate from there. And the reason why I bring that up, because collaboration helps resources and efficiency. So working together, bringing together resources, pulling them together, whether it's skills, time, or even financial assets, you have to collaborate to bring in more resources and increase efficiency. Nothing helps more than pulling data together, pulling experiences together, and coming up with a solution. And that'll help you get any job done faster. Last but not least, having everyone together creates stronger problem solving. So every business has a problem. There's a problem. Sometimes you have them every hour, and some days you have no problems at all. But every small business, every business in general has some sort of problem. I think we spend 80% of our time solving problems. If there wasn't any problems, then we wouldn't be in business. I think this is how that works.
100%.
And then, so when faced with those complex problems, a good collaborative team can just, figure it out, and draw from the team members, the collective knowledge and those skills to help give you those solutions. Typically, 9 times out of 10, businesses are selling a solution. So having a diverse team, having a very collaborative team allows you to sell that product or that service 10 times better and 10 times faster. So if you're in the business, everyone's in the business of solving problems. It's just that how efficient are you? What's your perspective on it? And can you do it? Can you get the job done?
Yep. So Patrick, tell us about these case studies.
So yeah, these are 3 clients that we're working with. 2 of them have already finished their projects. One we're currently in. And then after that, I'm going to give a demo from the indie creator perspective. So all 3 of these case studies are 3 different levels of businesses or 3 different levels of organization. Everybody, I don't know if everyone remembers Ebony Magazine. It's still in print. Jet Magazine is no longer in print, but they're owned by Ebony. We did a platform integration for them, streaming, which is one of our services for not just independent creators, but for business clients as well, where we allowed Jet to start to create and distribute their own original podcasting. A lot of times, if you think about how innovative podcasting really is, it allows old mediums such as Jet Magazine to rebirth themselves and tell current stories in a new format. Jet Magazine was the only magazine that sent their photographer that got the up close picture of Emmett Till in the casket. They also own the picture of Coretta Scott King at her husband's funeral, Martin Luther King's funeral. So you got to understand that they were telling stories in a small community globally where other communities had no insight of what was going on. And so that methodology or that community connection was kind of lost for almost 2 decades.
Wow.
Jet's last print came out. And podcasting helped bring that back because it's honestly, it's a I guess low bar medium to get into, especially if you are a publishing company such as Ebony. So we helped them get that up and running. They're using their own data metrics now to see what works well, what stories are good. They're actually helping innovate new creatives. They're bringing up the young, the next generation to create and tell their own stories in their communities, especially the Black and brown ones.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Next is Charlotte Lab School. They've actually given us the idea to actually help schools. They were the first school to contact us and say, hey, how can we get podcasting into the hands of students? So what we did was we gave everybody an individual account. It is amazing what happens when you teach kids, especially in the middle school age, of how to podcast and how to upload and distribute their own content. I mean, you get amazing stories. Believe it or not, 6 through 8 is a community in itself. It is an age range that, for lack of better words, they don't communicate with their parents as much. It's kind of like they stop talking between ages of 11 and 14. They just like don't talk to adults. So to get anything,
is this experience that you have?
Yes, this is real world experience here. So not just that, I was that guy, and going, especially young men as they go through those early teenage years, they tend to try to find themselves, and that means not talking to adults. So, podcasting is a way to allow them to communicate and tell their story. Not only that, what we found just in this micro study is that Charlotte Lab does have a high population of underrepresented Black and brown, especially Black and brown women that go to this school and that teach at the school. And what we found is that it wasn't a problem with students retaining the information. It was actually a problem with how they communicate in their community that caused the bad grades. For instance, if you teach a kid about volcanic activity and you ask them to give an oral presentation on it, they will get an A+ because they did the research, they retained the information, and then they presented that information back to you. But if you ask them to write it down in a formalized language that is not conducive to their community, whether it's slang, culturisms, or even English as a second language, they tend to get a C or D just because of grammar, not because they didn't understand the information. So what we did was we asked them to present the same information, but create a podcast out of it. And once teachers heard them, they gave them A's because, they got higher grades on the material just because of the cultural barriers and the cultural differences. We see this in corporate America all the time.
Wow.
So it's been in our fabric of our DNA as a country for decades, but it really did affect some grades. That's why you can see some people who do who have low test scores still end up excelling at Ivy League or even college because there's more oral presentation in the higher ed institutions.
Wow.
So podcasting helps that. The data that we bring along with that, they would have never known that story. So audio is here to stay. It is helping communities grow. And just think about your community, your business audience, and your business customer. How do you communicate with them? I guarantee you it's not a 4-page paper on legal terms. I guarantee it's not a 4-page paper on digital strategies. But if you communicate that to them in a podcast, your community, they'll understand it. And back to Teresa's case study, you'll get higher engagement because you're speaking to your audience in a format that they can understand.
Wow.
Last but not least, is Novant Health, which is a huge hospital here in the South, South and East. They have probably over 250,000 employees spread out between Maryland and Georgia and Florida, including the Carolinas. During the pandemic, they had the laws and the techniques and training in home care and health care and hospital care was changing so fast that even an email or sending around digital copies could not keep up with the level of training that nurses and doctors needed to perform their job. What we found that streaming content directly to them and allowing them to learn it instantly actually helped because they got a notification on their device, they clicked it, they listened to the information, and they were trained. And they were literally ready to go for the next patient within a few hours. A lot of times, nurses, especially nurses, they don't have their own computer. They have to make time to get to a computer or sit down and read a 15, 30-page training document, then go back and look at the pictures, follow all the diagrams, where reality is they can watch a video or listen to a podcast and get the same information and be ready to go because they understand their audience and they're speaking in terms that only practitioners and nurses and doctors will know and understand. So they get that information out faster, quicker, and the engagement of that is because you know who listened to it, you know who's actually doing the training because of the data. And those are the people you want on the front lines or dealing with the emergency situations that was going on. So they actually brought this use case to us, and we just been happy and overwhelmed with helping them kind of develop a streaming platform internally for their organization.
Wow, that's fantastic. So moving on, because I'd like to get to the demo. I don't see any questions in the chat, but we can answer any questions as they come up. So I'm really excited to get into the demo. I'm going to turn it over to Patrick to walk us through. We're going to share screen, so just bear with us a minute as we transition here for a little bit. Let me just give you that. Okay, I'm going to stop share. Patrick, and you have the floor now to share.
Okay, and if you're seeing my screen, so right now I just have Disctopia up right now. This is just Disctopia.com. So if you want to find out any more information about me or the company, you definitely can just go to Disctopia.com. What we tend to do and what we tend to focus on at all times is data, not just data, but engaging your audience and measuring it instantly. Once you actually log on and actually get into the platform, you definitely have a library when you go to My Library when you can upload. And of course, there's 5 different things you can upload based on your account. This demo account is for audio only because that's what we're focused on. So all accounts get the same upload privilege. You can do music, podcasts, even merch and audio books. And it's very simple. It's just like any other platform, new podcast, new episode, or you can migrate a podcast over to us. And once that podcast is uploaded, you'll definitely see it in your library. We have a couple sample music. We have a couple sample podcasts. And we have a few sample audio books. And it's just like every other dashboard you will see in your library, depending on, who you are, where you are in the world. This is pretty much standard. Everyone should at least give you an RSS feed, something that you can submit to other platforms as a podcaster, and so on and so forth. Now, where there's 2 ways that we differ. We give all creatives a way to upload merch, and you can actually sell your merch directly to your audience, and that allows you to make 100% commission minus the cost of the product. So you can upload any image directly to the platform. It's very simple. We're not asking people to be fashion designers. We're just asking you to sell directly to your audience to increase your revenue. So you upload an image, you put it on a sweatshirt, you put it on a crew neck, you can even do a bag. Clearly, you can see we've been testing a lot of bags. And that's the way it goes. And you don't have to hold that inventory. It immediately, as soon as someone orders it, the on-demand printer gets that order and ships it out for you. And what we'll do is we'll send that money directly to your account every Wednesday. We actually make deposits on Wednesday. So that is one of the small differentiators from our platform. And the reason why is because our very first adopters were musicians. And the number one way for indie artists to make money outside of way back in the days of passing out CDs was to sell merch. So we kind of digitalized and streamlined that process for them. Now, the biggest differentiator is our analytics. Our analytics are broken down into what we like to call modern analytics for streamers. The very first thing that we let you know is your streaming stats. Whether it's music, podcasts, or audiobooks. And we break that down into previews, plays, and true plays. Most people has a lot of previews. That means they listened to it, they liked it for a little bit, and then they changed. This is actually what we like to call an IAB standard. IAB is the podcast metric analytics standard. It's a global standard, but IAB only counts 60 seconds. So and we count 15%. So we kind of give you a little more grace, especially if you have a longer podcast. We want to make sure that if they listen to at least 15% or less, it's counted to us as a preview. They really didn't make it to the plays, and they definitely didn't make it to true plays. True plays, outside of, it's about 9 different ways we measure a true play. One is, did they get to at least 75% or more of the actual media file, whether that's a song or a podcast? And other things we put in there, we put fraud detectors in our plays. So we want to make sure that we know that playing the same podcast from the same IP address, from the same account, does not count as a true play. A lot of the streaming platforms turn a blind eye to that. And we don't think it's fair to the advertiser. We don't think it's fair to the actual streamer because it's not helping you. Getting your mom and your dad and your brother and your cousin to run up your plays will not help you make better content. It just won't. So that's why we separate a play from a true play. And it's not necessarily something, this is your dashboard. You can chop this data up however you want. We do give you an export button here, but we're just letting you know that we know, between me and you, the creator, we know what's really going on.
Yeah. And, I think it's really important to highlight that part about the IAB and how they track it, because in the industry today for podcasting, it's shifting because people were gaming the system, if you will. Mm-hmm. So so these are things we want to share with you, is that, if you had 60 seconds of ads, right, which is like a minute, and I believe you and I talked about this, Patrick. So if you had that as the first part with the IAB standard, it was like they could count that ad, which wasn't really your podcast, as a play. And it was something relevant to that. So it's like all the advertisers could get their plays or their soundbite in, and it would be counted. But if nobody listened to your podcast, then it was not a real true, you couldn't measure that piece. And what you want ultimately is people to listen to your podcast. So that industry is changing. And I think Spotify, there was an article that they kept that out of their metrics now for various reasons, but the industry is changing. So this is where I see the opportunity, where Patrick is saying, look, this is real metrics. We're not gaming the system. And he built this based on his knowledge of the industry and what people are expecting. in the industry for opportunities to collaborate, for partnerships, which are money. I mean, this is huge to me. And also for businesses like the healthcare and the school to kind of track students. I mean, we're taking the podcasting out, but the video content and listening, you know who's watching and who's doing the full, I would say, reel or the full video content based on that. So I think that's really helpful because people are trying to game the system, these larger companies, based on brand ads. And I just feel that that's wrong. So this is the lens we're talking about, being trustworthy, and then also helping everyone to understand this is where we're building trust and the benefits and opportunities.
Right. And just to piggyback off that news, Spotify actually just left IAB as a partner.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, to be a partner is $2,500. To be a member is well, for small companies like myself, it's $2,500. I think the max is $30K, but $30K to Spotify is absolutely nothing.
Yeah, that's like a vendor event for like 2 hours.
Right. And but for them to leave IAB as a member really said something about either how they want to change data or how they don't believe that IAB is counting it properly. Because Spotify's in a weird position. They're an advertiser and they're also a platform that pays out. Mm-hmm. So if they're paying out on the music side based on an IAB play of 60 seconds, Spotify is like, hey, why do I have to give this artist or this record label, it's a record label really, this money when this isn't a real play and I'm getting counted for this? And then on the flip side, they kind of like IAB because they can go to Disney and say, hey, look at all these advertising impressions you had. Now, we don't really care about if they got to the podcast now, but look at how many times Disney was mentioned or this was mentioned or that was mentioned. So it was best for them to kind of just bow out and say, look, we want our own metrics. We don't want to overpay and we don't want to be underpaid. And the best way to do that is to get out of the tracking system. And they did that last week, actually. Last week.
Yep.
So speaking more on that, when you talk about audience engagement and how your audience is reacting to your content, we actually give you 4 different ways to do that. We give you the IAB plays. And this, we let you know that, hey, IAB plays are the standard with the Interactive Advertising Bureau Council play. We let you know engage plays is when a listener listens beyond the stand of an IAB play, but not quite a true play. And then we have a true play. True plays or engagement in your content defined as 75% or more. Now, there's some proprietary data that we also classify. Some of that revolves around fraud, like I explained earlier. And then we kind of total that up. But if you want to break it down to which ones are just IAB or which ones are true plays, so on and so forth, we do that as well. You can see your true plays versus your engaged plays versus your IAB plays, and it's so on and so forth. We'll let you know if it's just Disctopia because we have our own player as well, and other platforms. And clearly, this data that we've mined, we've trying to test and make sure that other platforms are being represented here as well. And then we try to break it down, downloads. So we also let you know that download is a historical metric for podcasts, and historical as in 2023. 20, downloads are the word that people use to say, hey, I have this many people in my audience. So we give you that. Now, what you choose to do with that data is up to you, but we do let you know that, every time someone subscribes to your platform or subscribes to your podcast, we just want to let you know that there's no real accurate way to know if they listen to it, especially if they did not listen to it on a Disctopia player. We have no insights to the Apple player, the Google player, or the Spotify app. They keep those numbers to themselves, but we do at least get a number for you. And so we give that to you, total downloads, IAB downloads as much as they give us. engaged downloads, and then we have true downloads, which, as you can see based on these numbers, those true downloads, because we don't know, are very, very far few in between. But we also give you a link out so that you can go and learn about what the difference between a download, a play, and a listen is, because everyone talks about it differently.
They do. I put listens on mine because that's how my platform is tracking it. Because, and when I do downloads, I feel like there are ways that you can gain the listens between the downloads. And I think the IAB, and there's a lot here that we're learning, right? And
Yes.
you're kind of bringing that forward, and people are like, well, I don't really care about that. I don't want to know about that. But see, the thing is that it is important to understand who is engaging with your podcast and who is actually listening. And it is hard on the other platforms to gather that information. Because as we said, and I said, people want to know, are people really listening to your content? Are they engaged? Where are they? Right? Like where are they? And this is really important from a metric standpoint. And I still struggle with it myself, even though I've seen numerous dashboards like this for many different things. But this is like, when there's a black box, like all these big platforms have, it's really hard, but we can get as close to the number as possible is what Patrick is saying.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So going a little further, we based on what you just said, you're right on spot on platform engagement. Where are they coming from? What is the biggest one? For this data, we're looking at Apple Podcasts. They have other Castbox, and then there's an Apple device that's unknown, so that might be another player. And then you can kind of dissect them as needed, just to see where everything is coming from. Good pods. And this is just really helping you out to know. On the other side, we talk about engagement. How does your audience engage with their content? And then we do top episodes. And there's a lot of test data here. But what we're also doing now is we're starting to do total time. We were the first one to do this, and then I noticed someone else said they saw this, but I don't think they do it the way we do it. And we do total time per episode. So total time is how long, no matter if it's 1 second or 1 hour, was that podcast listened to? Was it 50 hours spread over, and you can kind of do the math, was it 50 hours spread over 5 days, 5 plays, so on and so forth. So, we're really starting to get into these really hardcore metrics of, the total time here was a little bit over a minute. And as you can tell, there were 2 IAB plays. IAB only counts anything that is from 0 to 60 seconds. And so that was a total of 2 plays. It was 2 IAB plays. So a minute is about right. Once you get down here, this one was 3 minutes. So it was above the 15% mark, but it was an engaged play. So was it counted as an IAB play? And I do that data just to let you know how this total time is very important based on total plays, IAB plays, and engaged plays. Now, you're probably wondering like, hey, this says 000, but it has 4 total plays. And that is because you guys are very privy to our new system coming out in about 60 days, where we're actually converting PDFs for schools. So you can't really have a total listen time on a PDF. So I just want to put that out, but just for people who are looking at my screen a little too hard. And last but not least, your standard map of where your plays are coming from. This is all test data, but we have this standard map. We're actually getting ready to update it and give people a little more zoomed in level data, like down to the city. We're actually trying to, without breaking any laws, we're trying to get down to the block. But that takes a lot of work, a lot of cross metrics of IP addresses and stuff like that. So other than that, we because we believe that data should be down to your block, should be down to your neighborhood. I should be
Yep.
able to do top cities, not just top cities. I should be able to do top neighborhoods and kind of go from there. But
Yeah, because then if you want to go visit them, right? Because this is what a lot of quote unquote celebrity podcasts are doing, is they're taking that data and they're saying, hey, this is where the most listens are around the state. Maybe you should go to that state or that city or that area and do a live podcast and invite the audience to be there, right?
right.
And this is what's happening right now in that community. And I also see that as I was bringing it up to you, like, why is it like Iowa, it has the highest concentration of listens? And you said, well, there's, IP address for Spotify that's there based on data centers. So it's like, well, I would never go to Iowa anyway, but
Right.
but there's things you can understand about this information. I know we're coming up on time, Patrick, and I want to be respectful of our audience, but can you just tell us that the last thing I want to get into is the relevancy for revenue? We talk about business growth, strategy opportunities, how to build partnerships with this information. But through your platform, you offer 3 different revenue opportunities besides the merch and the, selling aspect. You also do something that Spotify does, and you also do something that can make it exclusive as a strategy to kind of building a community just for information, right? So like a Substack with a paywall. And yeah, so can you dive into that real, kind of,
So
that's kind of your opportunity. That's a differentiator amongst, other platforms.
yeah, so we have 3 ways. And so outside of merch, any content by default, you can sell directly to your fans. So if you're a musician, you can sell your album directly, download for $1 million, and we'll pass along that money if someone buys it for $1 million. But typically people sell it for about $10 to $25, and that's someone. So we have direct download. Also, we pay by the stream. If you make it exclusive, whether it's music or podcast, if you make it exclusive to Disctopia, only people with Disctopia accounts can stream your content, and we pay up to 5 cents per podcast play, 2 cents per song play, and we're also getting into 10 cents per hour on the session time. That's actually hasn't been released. We're actually releasing that in August in Washington, D.C. at Podcast Movement. That'll be our big kind of feature demo release. And then last but not least, outside of exclusive plays, we're also doing the pay. It's not the paywall, but you can actually put a kind of privacy. You can make it private and exclusive. Therefore, they actually have to come to wherever you are, whether that's Patreon, your website, your newsletter. So you can develop your own kind of pay system. We actually had a teacher upload her courses, and you could only access it through her email. And then she charged to get subscribed on her email. So she was a she was a community college professor that was charging for additional instruction. And you have to subscribe to her email. And by that, you subscribe to her email. And in the email, it had a private link that was only available for if you had her email. And you'll click the link in the email, and it'll take you to her page on Disctopia. You can play the video. So she took her payment outside of Disctopia, which is totally fine. A lot of paywalls don't allow you to do that. They don't allow you to take the actual payment method away from them because they want their cut. They want their 15 and 25%. Mm-hmm. Where we're like, look, whatever makes you happy, you do you. We're not here to hamper anyone's hustle. We're definitely not in any way, shape, form trying to hamper anyone's business model. So those are the 3 ways that you can have monetize opportunities with Disctopia. We are not trying to stop anyone. We believe in the content owner. And so we just want you to thrive, go from surviving to thriving. That is our motto, is try to get everybody from surviving to thriving. and you
Yeah,
try to
that's all.
have the most options as possible.
Yeah, and maybe we can like later explore demo into like how that works. But what I wanted to say is that here is an opportunity to understand that Patrick is really trying to have the content creator be the owner and the distributor and to monetize. Where that's different across the other platforms, as he mentioned it, there's a cut, there's something you have to do. However, I believe that, the future of this is going to change because a lot of folks want to have their ownership in their content creator, especially now with AI coming into the mix. And that's a whole different discussion, which we can probably have another webinar piggybacking off that and why that's important today to make sure that you're owning your own content and how that streams through these platforms is very, very important moving forward. So with that, Patrick, I know we're a little bit over time. I do appreciate a lot of, the shared content here. I know we didn't have time to put your socials up here, but do you know where we can reach out to? I know it's Disctopia.com.
Everything's right? Disctopia. All the socials are Disctopia.
Okay.
Yep.
And yep, at Disctopia on IG, Facebook, X, all the social platforms, right?
Yep.
And if you'd like more information about Latinasb2b, which is Latinas from the Block to the Boardroom, that's our podcast. But with the marketing services are Latinasb2b.marketing. If you'd like to reach out to me and to schedule some time to learn more, you can reach out to me here with the social handles, or you can go to the website and fill out a contact form. The last thing I'd like to leave everybody with is this was a lot of information. We'll have it available as a PDF, but we'll also have some of these little snippets, I say, of information available on our YouTube channel, which is going to be Latinasb2b. That's a B with the number 2B, and also on our Instagram Reels. So follow us there to make sure you get some of the content, and you can stay in touch with us about more business strategies and webinar series that we'll be hosting. And with that, I'd like to say, have a great day. Keep going. Don't let anybody, get you down out there. And I'd like to say, let's lift everyone up with some positive energy. And I want to thank Patrick for his today. So, gracias. And, let's stay in touch.